Hi, I'm Bill Moranci,
I'm Rick Winston.
and we're here to talk about movies. And the topic today, it'll be seasonal. We're going to talk about Christmas movies. Christmas movies have been a staple. If you look on any of the reference sites, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of Christmas movies. Bad Santa, all kinds of stuff. Some movies that people have associated with Christmas, like It's a Wonderful Life, because they showed at Christmas time. They're trying to evoke that kind of spirit.
And also, It's a Wonderful Life ends at Christmas. We're not going to show It's a Wonderful Life.
No, we're not. But to an extent, most of us haven't really thought about Christmas movies, as well as the songs, have gone a long way toward creating the myth of Christmas in Western and in American society in particular. And we don't really think about that. Things like A Holiday Inn, of course, which gave us the song White Christmas, that sort of generated this, well, what looking back, looks kind of mushy when you see scenes with the trees and all that stuff. And I think that's been the primary role that movies have done. They've sort of not just reflected this myth, but helped to create it. As like in the book, An Empire of Their Own, the author, Neil Gaiman, talks about the fact that these early movie moguls wanted to create an America that they wanted it to be.
Yeah. And God forbid there should be any Jewish people in this America.
I know.
Yeah. So Louis Meyer was the arch culprit there.
Yeah, he gave us stuff like Andy Hardy, but also gave us Christmas movies.
Yeah. And then I remember when I was a little kid, that movie was Bing Crosby, White Christmas, all the songs there. But as we get towards our more contemporary age, then there's a whole subcategory of movies that involve families getting together at Christmas, which is the spur for unresolved family issues.
Right.
It's a great plot generator as well as everything else.
Yeah, because it sets up inherent conflict. Because within every family, there's some disagreement, some conflict.
Yeah.
Well, the first one that we're going to take a look at today falls in the early part of that genre, and it was made during the middle of the war. It was made in 1944, released about a year later, and it just epitomizes all of the hopes and the longings that the GIs and the people who were left behind back at home had for sort of having everybody together with a tree and singing Christmas carols and all the stuff that people now associate with Christmas. This really epitomized this. The story is preposterous. It's one of these. It's based on a character played by Barbara Stanwyck. The movie is called Christmas in Connecticut, and Barbara Stanwyck plays a
columnist,
like a Martha Stewart type character, where she writes a column about how her family is this and her family is that, and her house is this and that, and it's all just made up. And the publisher for whom she works, if he finds out that it's all made up, then he'll fire her because he doesn't like liars. It's idiotic, but it sets up the whole story. They go to this house in Connecticut, and they have this Christmas celebration with some wonderful character actors.
My favorite is Aziz Akal, the Hungarian actor who we remember from Casablanca.
Yes, of course, and the great whale himself, Sidney Greenstreet, in a comic role.
Yeah.
And I think he pulls it off very nicely, too. But anyway, the scene that we're going to watch from Christmas in Connecticut is somewhere in the middle of the movie, and they're staging all of this for the benefit of a young sailor who's been injured, wrote to the Martha Stewart character, Barbara Stanwyck, and it turns out that he's Dennis Morgan. And he plays the piano, and the scene that we're going to watch is Barbara Stanwyck can't reveal to him the truth of what's going on here. So she's trimming the tree, and he's singing a Christmas carol next to her, and it's so obvious. I mean, she's looking at him with yearning and longing, because she wants to get together with this guy. And so let's take a look at what this looks like.
Nice voice, that boy.
Yes.
Above thy deep and
thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Don't stop.
I'm wishing that I may, I'm wishing that I might have the wish that I wish tonight. I've told my lucky star the wish that I made, and every time so far she's come to my aid. It may not be today, it may not be tonight, but I'm sure it will be all right. And maybe by tomorrow, if I wish with all my might, I might have the wish I wish tonight.
Uh,
And everybody smokes.
yeah, what's Christmas without a cigarette? I was in the library the other day. I was looking through 1948 issues of the Burlington student newspaper. And in every single issue, there was a half-page ad from Chesterfield with a different Hollywood star on it, puffing away. That's,
Different time.
Really,
Yeah.
it was quite instructive. Well, we're going to move forward almost, well, this is the early 50s, 51 or 52. And a film that was a favorite of mine from childhood, and it's what I guess we would call an omnibus film, that is 5 different stories. It's called O. Henry's Full House, and 5 different directors, each taking an O. Henry short story, and using all the great actors that were under contract to 20th Century Fox at that time, held together with a narration by John Steinbeck.
Really?
Yeah. So one story is with Charles Lawton, and one story is with Richard Widmark and Marilyn Monroe.
Oh my goodness.
Gene Crane.
Oh.
And a very funny one with Fred Allen and Oscar Levant.
Oh boy.
So it's a real historical artifact. But the one we're going to see is probably O. Henry's most famous story, and definitely is one of the favorite Christmas stories, The Gift of the Magi. And the stars in this little episode are Farley Granger and Jean Peters. And this is, they play an impoverished, well, not poor, but definitely struggling to make ends meet couple, newlyweds. And in this scene, they're window shopping for what they might be getting each the other for Christmas.
Jean Peters was married to Howard Hughes at the time. So she could have gotten the entire store.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, let's take a look at this little scene from O. Henry's Full House.
heavens she didn't buy them. They'd be terrible in her hair.
They once were worn by a Chinese empress. Cost $25.
Jim, how do you...
Well, I priced them day before yesterday. I thought maybe if they weren't
The
too
diamond tiara will look much better with the sealskin. Now, come on, you'll be late for work. Well, what would you like for Christmas dinner? Now, tell me, aren't you getting a little tired of turkey? How about a goose stuffed with apples or a duck with orange sauce?
They're whatever you like. Surprise me. But don't stay on your feet too long. You know what?
Mrs. Schultz said a walk every day was good for me, and she's had 7.
You want something?
The Gift of the Magi, as readers of this story may remember, the scene where he takes out his watch to look at the time. He sells his watch so he can get... Oh, no. People know this story. He sells his watch so he can get her a hair clip.
Yeah.
And she sells her hair so she can get him a watch fob.
Yes. Like most of O. Henry's stories, they had little twists.
Yeah.
That actually that worked very well. And my memory is, from reading about him years ago, that he wrote these stories under pressure for money.
Yeah.
He started writing in prison. Something.
Yes, he did not have an easy life.
Yeah, ended up being an alcoholic, but he left these treasures behind.
Yeah. Mm. Well, we go forward a few decades for our next clip.
Yeah, let's move ahead to 1983. The next movie that we're going to take a look at is taken from the work of Gene Shepard. And Gene Shepard, did you watch him when you were young or listen to him when you were young?
I knew about him, and I realized way too late that, hey, I should have been paying more attention to this guy. He had a late night
show on
radio show.
WOR in New York City for many years. And I first was exposed to him when he did a series for public television in 1971 called Gene Shepard's America, where he went to all different places and would essentially do stand-up comedy for an hour. But he was a wonderful comedic writer.
A monologuist of the first order.
Yeah.
And you did digression, but pulling it all back together.
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
End, wrapping it up in a nice bow.
He had an excellent voice, which we'll actually hear in this clip because he does a narration over this movie. I also remember my father's Playboy magazines. When I was young, they published some of his stories, and I remember just laughing to the point of tears at a movie that he wrote about the prom experience called Wanda Hickey's Night of Golden Memories.
Oh, yes.
Which even the title is funny.
Yeah. And he also was one of the first writers for Mad magazine,
yes.
too. They would do things for him occasionally.
He's famous for a stunt that he pulled where he said, he realized at one point, in the early 50s, that the New York Times bestseller list was based not just on the books that people bought, but the ones that were asked about, that was reported by the bookstores. So he got his listeners to ask for a book called something like I, Terrorist, or something like that, and asked them to call all their local bookstores and ask for this book.
Which didn't exist.
No, it didn't exist, and it actually appeared in the New York Times bestseller list.
I never heard that story.
And then he and 2 other people got together and wrote a book with that title, which didn't get on the New York Times bestseller list. But anyway, Gene Shepard was just a marvelous comedic force. Grew up in Hammond, Indiana, and the movie that we're going to watch, or the clips that we're going to watch, are from the movie called A Christmas Story, which was taken from a book that he wrote called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. And we'll hear his narration. He sort of captures what life is like for a little boy in the late 1940s. And this little boy's coming onto Christmas, and the only thing he really wants is a Red Ryder BB gun. And every adult that he says this to, including Santa Claus, says, "Oh, you'll shoot your eye out." And so it's about the frustration of being a little kid in 1940s Hammond, Indiana. So this clip takes place in the schoolyard And it's about an incident that's well remembered by anybody who's watched this movie. Let's take a look at that.
You're full of beans and so's your old man. Oh, yeah? Yeah! Says who? Says me. Oh, yeah? Yeah! I double dare you.
The exact exchange and nuance of phrase in this ritual is very important.
Huh, are you kidding? Stick my tongue to that stupid pole, that's dumb. That's 'cause you know it'll stick. You're full of it. Oh, yeah? Yeah! Well, I double dog dare you.
Now it was serious. A double dog dare. What else was left but a triple dare you? And finally, the coup de grace of all dares, the sinister triple dog dare.
I triple dog dare you.
Schwartz created a slight breach of etiquette by skipping the triple dare and going right for the throat.
All right, all right. Come on, Carrie. Well, go on, smartass, and do it. I'm going.
Flick's spine stiffened, his lips curled in a defiant sneer. There was no going back now.
This is nuts. Stop. Stop. Stop! 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 It really works. Look at it. The bell rang. What are you gonna do? I don't know. The bell rang. Yeah. Come back.
Where's Flick? Has anyone seen Flick?
Flick? Flick who?
He was at recess, wasn't he? Ralphie, do you know where Flick is? I said, has anyone seen Flick? Yes, Esther Jane. Oh, my God!
You know, to this day, I don't know if that's true. I think it has to be really cold before you...
Really cold, yes. I think it's true.
I think it's probably true, too. But you can see from this clip that we see the world through the eyes of a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah. This was, I think this has become sort of a cult movie.
Really?
Yeah, I picked that up at Downstairs Video, you know, that people would come in and they would always ask for it, especially around Christmas time, but then they started saying, I've seen this movie 3 times, 5 times. And year after year after year, and I think it's one of those movies that didn't do very much when it came out, but has since become a perennial favorite.
There's a scene in this movie where the father in the family, played by Darren McGavin, unwraps a lamp that he bought that he's particularly thrilled with, and it's a woman's leg with mesh stockings and high heels, and it's got a lamp coming out of the top of her leg, and everybody's looking at him, and I just saw that lamp advertised online.
Well, the last clip we're going to see today is from a movie from the 90s called Midnight Clear. And of course, the title is from Christmas Carol. And it's a war movie. And just like, I'm not sure if this incident happened. There was a real incident that happened in World War I that involved a Christmas truce, where the French and German soldiers got together for a celebration. There was a decent movie made out of that story called Joyeux Noël, a French film about 10 years ago. But this is an American film dealing with a bunch a platoon that's in the Argonne Forest in the waning days of World War II, who come upon a German group of soldiers who are on the verge of surrendering, and they also plan a get-together for Christmas. This movie sort of came and went when it came out, but it's really one of the better American independent films of that era. Great cast: Gary Sinise, Ethan Hawke, Kevin Dillon. I think we're going to see Kevin Dillon in this, and an actor who I haven't seen since, named Peter Berg. And this is a scene in which the soldiers encounter the Germans for the first time, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And they pick, it's the Jewish soldier because he knows Yiddish, which is somehow connected to German, that he's their spokesperson. So, a very touching movie. Let's watch a little clip from it.
Morgen, Armin. Wie heißt du? Was ist dein Name?
Mein Name ist Schutzer.
Schutzer? Das ist ein deutscher Name. Du sprichst Deutsch?
Ich nicht reden Deutsch. Ich rede Jiddisch. Ich verstehe
Jiddisch?
was. Ja, ja.
Jiddisch, du bist ein Jude?
Ja.
Hey, ich schlag mich tot. Wir sollen uns einem Juden ergeben?
Hey,
Das ist ja unmöglich, Mensch. Mich einem Juden ergeben.
Ja, ja.
Gar nicht in Frage, du. Hast du einen Offizier? Bring mir den Offizier.
Offizier? Ja.
Spreche mit dem Offizier.
Ja, ja, ja. Ja, okay. Geht. Just... I want to talk to our officer in charge.
I don't speak German or Yiddish.
It's okay, I'll translate. Come
No,
on.
I don't have any stripes on my arm. They're not going to believe I'm an officer.
Well, I just don't think they're very happy about surrendering to a Jew, okay?
Did they say they want to surrender?
No, just stuff about wanting to talk to our officer in charge.
What was all the yelling about?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
Look! I'm doing the best I can, okay? Look, just come over with me. I'll tell them our officer's back at the chateau. Look, you look goy enough. Maybe they'll come out more with you around. Okay? Come on.
Pass auf den zweiten Mann auf. Wer ist das?
This is, my friend, Freund.
Wo ist der Offizier?
Mein Offizier he's in the Stieb, you know?
Wir sind 7 Soldaten, ja?
7.
Von der russischen Front. Pass auf den auf.
Okay, I think I got it. There's 7 of them. They just got sent back from the Russian front where it sounds like they got the shit knocked out of them. All right. He keeps talking about that big offensive south of here, and he doesn't want any part of it. See, they think the war is almost over, and they don't want to get killed in the last few days. I told him we'd bring our...
It's a film of unbearable tension and a lot of tenderness. A great war movie.
It brings out the conflicting emotions that run through these guys while they're going through this process.
Yeah, yep. Well, 4 of the hundreds and hundreds of Christmas movies we could have picked. One that we almost showed was that great Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan, Shop Around the Corner, which takes place during Christmas week in Budapest.
Well, if we just keep doing this show long enough, we'll eventually get, every year we'll drag up 4 more, and eventually we'll get them all done.
Yeah, and then there's you know, it went by us this year, but we could have done as a dysfunctional family getting together at Thanksgiving show.
There's hundreds of those, too. Well, one of the movies that I first, when Rick suggested, let's do a Christmas show, the first one that came to my mind was Die Hard, which is actually set on Christmas Eve.
Next time.
So next time.
Yep.
Okay, and next time we'll be back. We'll be doing some more movies, and we'll see you at the movies. I'm Bill Moranci.
I'm Rick Winston.
Good night.